Home. It's where you build your legacy, where traditions are started, seeds are planted, meals are shared, and stories are told. We are Chris and Natalie Carpenter, owners of Story Real Estate, and our team of top agents helps people find homes in Moscow, Idaho, and around the country.
Have you thought about a move? Contact us to get connected with a top agent who shares your values and puts your family first. Or reach out to us about our Moscow relocation guide.
Wherever you're looking to go, we can help you find home. Call us at Story Real Estate or visit us at storyrealestate.com and start building your legacy.
What is the chief end of man? Man's chief end is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever.
This is not the usual intro.
No.
Chief end of man.
But it's still good.
Westminster Confession.
That's right.
Catechized.
And you know who this is, don't you?
Brian Suave.
No. I mean, it's probably how you got to spell it in order to be able to find it on Spotify, which is where you can go to get, like, he's got 32.
He's killing it over there on Spotify.
Working, and when somebody is working this hard, you have to talk about it, especially when he's going to get to baptism eventually, right?
Yeah. That's so nice.
What do you mean? He went, the baptism question.
Yes, he's only at 32.
In the catechism.
I was going to say he's already at baptism.
No. He's at 32.
He's already been baptizing people.
If we were in the 90s, I'd be playing that one, but you know.
I got you.
Hey, welcome to Cross Baltic on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. Pastor Toby Chuck Knox, the Water Boy, and today is Wednesday.
What were we thinking?
I wish it was beer and Psalm Wednesday. We gotta get back to it.
We haven't done that. In a while.
Yeah, why are you slacking, Pastor?
Stick around for the show because actually it's really important. Did you guys catch the blaze and what they just did in Iowa?
All of it.
It's
every last minute.
There's some kind of earth shattering, tectonic plate movement going on in media right now. Yeah. Stick around for that.
The mission of Armored Republic is to honor Christ by equipping free men with tools of liberty necessary to preserve God-given rights. In the Armored Republic, there's no king but Christ. We are free craftsmen. Body armor is a tool of liberty. We create tools of liberty. Free men must remain ever vigilant against tyranny wherever it appears. God has given us the tools of liberty needed to defend the rights He bestowed to us. Armored Republic is honored to offer you those tools. So visit them today at AR, the letters AR, the number 500 armor.com. That's AR500armor.com.
So back to Iowa. Last week, what happened was I started seeing a couple videos drop on Twitter from the Blaze.
Okay.
Of, Tucker sat down and was it last Thursday or Friday? I forget which day the Iowa caucuses started. And it's part of like the party of the beginning of basically kind of election season for Republican candidate, who's going to be our Republican candidate against Biden, Kamala Harris, someone that's coming up. Iowa kicked off that day, and the Blaze had a whole day of media where they interviewed each presidential candidate that came. Trump didn't come. And then they had guests on. It was kind of like this Sports Center, day of politics. Yeah. And how the Blaze crafted it. They had all their hosts there. Of course, our boy Steve Deace was there. Delano was there. Yeah. And then they had guest hosts like Carrie. I always go either way. I go, Neil, what is it? Carrie or Carrie? Carrie. Lake, former.
Just call her Mrs. Lake.
Mrs. Lake. And so like the production of it was fantastic.
It was amazing.
It was amazing. And then Tucker. I mean, like, I felt like there was a little bit of us and Tucker and how he was doing some interviews there. I mean, I think Cross Baltic kind of set the standard for this kind of.
Yeah, that's exactly
what happened.
Yeah.
And so Tucker was the guy who was interviewing all the presidential candidates, and he did pretty fantastic. I would have a couple quibbles. I don't think he pushed Nikki Haley at all. Don't really think he pushed Vivek at all. And I don't think he really pushed DeSantis too hard. But he did push Asa Hutchinson, former governor of Arkansas, Tim Scott, former senator in South Carolina, and who was the third guy? Mike Pence, former VP Mike Pence, also running for president and everything. But we wanted to kind of actually put a little interesting context to what happened in Iowa, we actually got this clip about Matt Damon talking about kind of some of the disruption that's happening in the movie world right now.
So I think a scenario lots of viewers can relate to is sitting on the couch on a Friday night, going through the streaming services, cycling through the movies and thinking to themselves, they're not making movies for me anymore. As somebody who's been intimately involved in movie making for 30 years, what are the macro Hollywood conditions behind that sentiment?
Well, so what happened was the DVD was a huge part of our business, of our revenue stream. And technology has just made that obsolete. And so the movies that we used to make, you could afford to not make all of your money when it played in the theater because you knew you had the DVD coming behind the release. And 6 months later, you'd get a whole nother chunk. It would be like reopening the movie almost. And when that went away, that changed the type of movies that we could make. I did this movie Behind the Candelabra, and I talked to a studio executive who explained it was a $25 million movie. I would have to put that much into print and advertising, right, to market it, what we call P&A. So I'd have to put that in P&A. So now I'm in $50 million. I have to split everything I get with the exhibitor, right, the people who own the movie theaters. So I would have to make $100 million before I got into profit. And the idea of making $100 million on a story about like this love affair between these two people, yeah, I love everyone in the movie, but that's suddenly a massive gamble in a way that it wasn't in the 1990s when they were making all those kind of movies, the kind of movies that I loved and the kind of movies that were my bread and butter.
And so people who like those kind of movies all of a sudden get left on the sideline, and we stop seeing those kind of good romantic love stories, and at least everything above that budget line, 25 million and down, are gone.
Yeah.
Right? You know, there's just
because the DVDs are gone and everything's streaming.
Everything's streaming now.
You can't count on that revenue stream anymore.
Exactly. And I'm gonna tell you, I remember I used to go to the DVD. There was a site for DVD sales, and you can see every movie, and you would see movies that would. What you used to do is go to the box office to get the box office release, so everybody knew it was out there, and then you knew you were going to cash in on the DVD sales because people say, "Oh yeah, I remember that was a big movie. It went to the box office. I can trust that it's probably going to be a decent DVD."
Yeah. So I'll watch it more than a couple times.
And so I've seen the trailer,
and it stayed in the box office for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, whatever it was,
or just to have any sort of release, and then you compete it. And so there was a huge sale. Well, that kind of the same thing is happening right now with big tech and big media and Fox, ABC, CNN. Those networks are forgetting about this other group of people who want to have a different type of conversation.
Yeah. And the Blaze just stepped into that.
And the Blaze said, "Oh, really? So you mean to tell us this is like Blumhouse?" Right? Blumhouse did the same thing. They were like, "Oh, nobody wants to make a $5 million movie? We'll make the $5 million movie." And now our ability for profit margins are higher because of it. Blaze just stepped right in the middle of an opportunity to say, wait, Tucker's here now. He seems to have the attention of everybody. No one's talking about the issues that we really want to talk about on mainstream media.
Right.
The Daily Wire, they're not really invested in the kind of political same environment here where they're hosting, presidential candidates. So
they'll do backstage kind of talk stuff. Yeah.
But the Blaze said, we'll walk right into the middle of what all the areas that Fox
the networks.
And the networks don't want to engage anymore, and we'll own that center. And boy, did they own that center. The conversation and the questions that you want asked to certain people, you won't see at a typical caucus.
I mean, what mainline host is going to talk to you about how they've been reading the Bible the last year?
Well, Tucker might.
It's funny, in February, I was like trying to think about what to do for Lent. I'm not a particularly faithful or virtuous person, but you try to do something. I already quit smoking, so what's next? And I thought, well, I'm just going to read the Bible. And no, I'm not going to do a Bible study. I'm a Protestant, so I feel like I have a right to kind of read it myself. But the two things I have come away with after reading the entire New Testament, and I'm up to Deuteronomy in the Old Testament, is with the exception of Jesus, every figure is really flawed.
Big time.
Flawed in a way where you'd be like, I don't know if I could be friends with that person. You know what I mean? Yep. Abraham enters Egypt and he's like, oh, it's my sister actually, take her. What? I was saying to my wife, who was a religion teacher, I was like, why didn't anyone, what is that? And she's like, maybe the point is that God takes people who are not perfect people, not only not perfect people, like they're so imperfect again, I don't think I could have dinner with them, and uses them for these grander purposes. That's the first thing I noticed. The second thing I notice is that people, while they have free will, of course, and they can make decisions and they live with the consequences of those decisions, they're not really in charge of the arc of history at all. They are being acted upon a lot.
Amen.
Okay? And I never really appreciated that because I'm American, and so I grew up with this feeling that we're the sum total of our choices. Well, that's not what I'm reading at all. You know, people's choices matter. You need to do certain things and not do other things. On the other hand, you are not in charge. You are being acted upon by a world you can't see. And that, by the way, is consistent with my life experience.
He's just articulating Calvinism.
I know. We're like, what other mainline media event would have the host of the event, the central host, basically describing how they're uncovering and discovering the biblical teaching of Calvinism?
Yeah. And it sounds to me like he's reading the Bible through for the first time in his life. That's
right.
Almost what it sounds
At least
like.
straight through.
Yeah, or is he reading it through the first time and actually paying attention to it?
Yeah, whatever.
But it's incredible. This is why I think Tucker's been so dangerous these last 6 months, is because he started reading the Bible in February, and then he became too hot to touch for Fox,
right?
And now he's here. He's independent. And the Blaze probably paid him his day rate of $100,000 or whatever to be there to do this.
I've never seen somebody who's unemployed be so jolly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because he's free.
He is,
he's free.
I remember seeing when he got kicked from Fox, and he's riding around on his four-wheeler or golf cart with his wife. And he's just smiling. I was like, you can kind of tell stuff's a stage, but I don't think that's staged. Yeah. I watched Tucker.
Got no strings on me.
Yeah, at the TPUSA event, which, by the way, was the next day right after this. And I want to talk about this a little more, but it was like a tent revival meets Dave Chappelle. And it was.
Oh, I think
Tucker.
I think I saw particular just the clip of him talking about the
cocaine,
in the White House.
You guys, you don't understand. Like,
and he was playing out the crowd. The crowd asked him that question.
I know. They're like, the coke in the White House.
It wasn't the only one. A couple different times he just talked, and it was like a dialogue between the audience and him. And he did this with no notes. And I was sitting there, and I'm like, this is tent revival feel. People are in there raising their hands, ready to accept Tucker into their heart. And but they're laughing so much. And he's just so much joy is coming from him. I'm like, that's why he is fighting as a jolly warrior. Yeah. And there's so much I want to say about that. But so when you got that kind of guy that everybody wants to see, and you have the Blaze coming to this moment, then you get moments that in people's career, as it should, when they answer stupid questions like Asa Hutchinson did.
And if you have a child who's born a boy, I want to become a girl, he hasn't gone through puberty yet, he's say 10. Is it treatment to prevent him from going through the natural process of adolescence? How is that treatment? It seems not like treatment. It seems like something else.
Well, you have to, Tucker, I hope that we'll be able to talk about some issues. I know that.
Well, this is one of the biggest issues in the country, and I think every person in this room would agree.
Oops.
Now, to be fair to Asa, he just did answer a couple questions earlier regarding the subject.
But he was walking. He was walking around the whole question because he vetoed some legislation.
He did,
right?
Yes,
and
some anti-transgender legislation.
And so that's what Tucker's been pressing him on. And so this is like the second or third time Tucker asks him about it. But part of the point is that he hasn't answered the question yet. Yep. He keeps talking about parental rights and not doing irreversible harm. And Tucker's like, but what about it? I mean, how was this not protecting children? Isn't that doing irreversible harm?
And Asa's trying to make the difference between the actual transgender surgeries and the medication that he's saying.
But Tucker's saying, but the medication's also doing irreversible harm. And that's what he's pressing him on. And that's when Asa says, are we going to talk about some issues?
But I think that everybody's kind of they're mixing on this because this is the same way. This is Frenchian. Like David French argues the same thing. He's like, guys, if we get in the middle of this, we're getting inside of parental rights.
Right.
But wait a second. Right. We haven't defined parental rights.
Right. Yeah. What are
Parents,
those?
the responsibility and duty of a parent is to raise up their children in the proper direction of virtue.
Right.
Cutting off your members or stopping a boy from gaining testosterone,
Right.
stopping a girl from developing breasts is not virtuous.
It's child abuse.
It's abusive.
Right.
And so
Which David French would say, yeah, parental rights stop at child abuse.
Right.
He would say that.
But then we have to.
But he's
missing this.
He's let the LGBTQ jihad
influence his definition.
Define virtue and abuse.
Have we not defined things well enough of what a parent is? Has the effect of abortion and some of the other laws that happened, divorce in America, have they defined how we think of what a parent actually is and what they're for? I think we've messed up the metaphysics of that even conservatives are getting that wrong.
Right. Well, the whole dictionary's been completely wrecked.
Exactly. And so I don't think these guys are trying to take their marching orders from the LGBTQIA LGBTQI.
Yeah, LGBTQI.
Right? I think that they haven't had a Christian biblical metaphysic to define these things so well, and they're drifting, not knowing it.
Right. Well, but again, I would say they're drifting because someone else is handing them definitions all day long. So yeah, I agree. They're not thinking to
themselves. I don't think they're nefarious necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think David French is in the background Googling Huffington Post and saying what is the correct definition of virtue. I don't think he's doing that. But I don't. When you don't have the anchor going all the way down, God made this place. His word is the last word on all things, and you don't have that building out your metaphysic.
Yeah.
Then you're anchorless. You're adrift, and there are winds of doctrine blowing.
Yes.
And if you're not constantly saying, I'm going to stay right here where God says this is a mom, this is a dad, this is a marriage, this is a family, this is virtue, this is abuse.
That's right.
Then it's like being at the beach, and you're playing in the ocean, and all of a sudden you look up, and your little spot is like 50 yards down, and you're like, I didn't mean to move down here at all.
Yeah.
Because if you're not anchored, you're drifting.
And I think one of the places if you're thinking about, okay, well, how do we do that? How do we anchor ourselves well? We just got done playing Brian Souvet.
Yeah.
That shorter catechism and the Westminster Confession of Faith is a great place. Look at the Fifth Commandment and work through the Fifth Commandment really well. But you know what? In order to get that, you're going to have to start at the First Commandment and work all the way through. But the Fifth Commandment really does help you understand your duties and responsibility as a parent to your subordinate, right?
Well, and I think, going to the first question, and you probably did this on purpose because you're smart and you like producing shows and all this kind of stuff.
I think about that.
But the whole the first question of what is the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever, which means it's not about you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one of the most radical things.
Not about your feelings.
I don't think people get it. It's like no. Yep. God is God. It's about glorifying Him. And our joy is a byproduct of glorifying Him. It's not about seeking your own pleasure, your own meaning, your own purpose. It's about denying yourself and finding your fullness in Him. That's the most earth-shattering metaphysic there is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It is.
You wouldn't have thought, I'm sorry, Gabe, were you going to?
I was going to go to the next.
Go ahead.
You ready? One thing I want to point out here before we go, Steve Dace, I think he tweeted this out or texted me, and he said, I've been...
I like how you dropped that.
I know. I was just
either it was a tweet or a text to me.
I don't know. I talked to Dave so much.
Or it was a phone call. I mean, I can't remember.
Yeah, if he called me, when I was over his house having a beer.
He was asking for advice or something. I can't remember.
I can't remember if Elon Musk was tweeting or texting me.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, memory's fuzzy. But he said, I've been to Iowa, he lives in Iowa.
Yeah.
And he's been to Iowa caucuses all his life since he's been involved in politics. And he said, I've never seen a caucus where the audience was so involved and so for or against.
Oh, wow.
He said, Iowans are so kind at these caucuses.
Interesting.
And they were actually taking sides.
Wow.
At these caucuses. And so and you see that. They clap Tucker, not Asa.
Yeah.
And so then Mike Pence comes on.
Yeah.
And when Mike go ahead and bring that video up, and this to me was probably the most devastating moment of the Iowa caucus. Now, to be fair, the initial response from Mike Pence was not exactly what he was trying to say, but the optics look so bad.
Right.
But even then, the audience wasn't that excited about Mike the whole interview, and then he does this.
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice President, I know you're running for president. You are
Thank you.
you are
Thanks for noticing.
distressed that the Ukrainians don't
Thanks for
have
noticing.
enough American tanks. Every city in the United States has become much worse over the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Drive around. There's not one city that's gotten better in the United States. And it's visible. Our economy has degraded. The suicide rate has jumped. Public filth and disorder and crime have exponentially increased. And yet, your concern is that the Ukrainians, a country most people can't find on a map, who've received tens of billions of U.S. tax dollars, don't have enough tanks. I think it's a fair question to ask, like, where's the concern for the United States in that?
Well, it's not my concern. Tucker, I've heard that routine from you before, but that's not my concern. I'm running for president of the United States because I think this country's in a lot of trouble. I think Joe Biden has weakened America at home and abroad. And as President of the United States, we're going to restore law and order in our cities. We're going to secure our border. We're going to get this economy moving again. And we're going to make sure that we have men and women on our courts at every level that will stand for the right to life and defend all the God-given liberties enshrined in our Constitution. Anybody that says that we can't be the leader of the free world and solve our problems at home has a pretty small view of the greatest nation on earth. We can do both.
A lot of breathing in that microphone.
I thought that was you for a second.
No,
Gabe.
no, it wasn't me.
I am your father.
But so I don't even know when he said it's not my concern.
Yeah.
I don't even know exactly what he was referring
what
to.
is not his concern?
What was not his concern? But initially, that soundbite really sounded like he was saying,
I don't care
those
about- I don't-
cities
I don't
that
care
are
about
being
cities.
destroyed are not
Right.
my concern. That's that clip.
No,
that, we played the whole clip,
Yeah.
but the clip ended. The clip that went viral ended with "That's not my concern."
Right.
Yeah.
Now, clearly, he doesn't mean he doesn't care about the cities.
Right. Right.
But I still don't know what he means.
That's
What
not
is
my concern.
what is not his concern?
So
I mean, if the executive is the chief of the military,
yeah,
and he's in charge of sending military support to various countries, or at least recommending that to Congress, who I guess has the purse strings to decide to authorize that spending. Why is it not his concern?
There was another fight happening on stage. Okay. This fight happening on stage was between Tucker and Pence. Pence came ready to fight Tucker.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Tucker got his eye off the prize. As a journalist, he knew what Pence was going to do, and Pence knew what Tucker was going to do. And so Pence tried to bully pulpit the time not to give Tucker any sort of
you watched
rebuttal.
the whole
If
interview.
you watch the whole interview, and so he's basically stiff-arming and saying, "Hold on, Tucker. Wait 1 second."
Yeah.
And Tucker, okay. He took it. He sat there and he waited. He was patient. He was trying not to be rude, and he was able to finally throw the jab in the perfect place to make Pence fight Tucker and not the argument.
Yeah.
And that got him to slip.
That's right.
And Tucker got
That's a
him
good
to
point,
slip
Knox, yeah.
so that this would happen.
Yeah.
Now the soundbite exists, like he says, that's not my concern. He wasn't fighting the conversation, dealing with conversation. He was fighting Tucker. And when he hit the wrong person. He hit the ref.
Yeah. Well, and you also
He hit the ref.
You also look
you
at-
don't hit the ref. You dummy.
No,
What are you doing?
That never works. It never works.
Tucker juked it and hit him just right. So this is why everybody appreciated Tucker, because it showed that he was politicking, right? And it showed that he was buying his time. And so he didn't play well to the audience. And that's what was so brilliant about this moment. It's not that he just said it's not my concern. We know that that's not really what he's trying to say.
Right.
No politician in their right mind.
Right. But clearly Tucker got to him.
Tucker got him to say something and missed his time, and a politician is too polished for that.
Yeah.
But when you got a guy like Tucker who knows how to engage in the conversation and knows where the dead bodies are and knows how you fight, it changes the dynamic of what people do in the middle of engagement, which means if you're a leader, you're going to take the okie doke.
Yeah.
You're going to do it.
You're going to do exactly the thing the guy doesn't want you to do on the other side when you're doing foreign policy, right?
Yeah.
He's going to fall for it because he's trying to be slick, and it's not going to work.
Right.
And Tucker just exposed, and that's the big takeaway for me. Is like he exposed it, and now Pence is trying to do some cleanup about like that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant to say. Of course, I
And
love
you're in a
America.
bad position when you're saying that's not what I meant.
And Tucker is over here
And-
like,
and
well,
the social
tell
media
us again.
viral.
Tell us again what you say. What you mean?
Yeah, what is your concern?
Yeah, what is your concern? Okay, so I want to talk about Vivek because I think he
Well,
was
real quick, just one thing.
Go
Just
ahead.
one last point here with between Pence and Vivek. This is the one interview where the body language is very obvious.
Oof.
Like Tucker made little eye contact with Pence. Pence made little eye contact with each other. It was, I think to your point, there's like something going on.
I've heard this before from you, Tucker.
But you watch, Tucker is not looking at Pence even when he asks the questions.
The audience is like, hey, yo, Tucker represents us. You better watch how you talking to Tucker.
Yeah, he's our boy.
He couldn't read the room at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And he stumped so much on here, it was embarrassing.
It was very, and there was one point in the Asa interview where Asa like sternly rebukes Tucker twice in a row, and he says, let me finish the question. Hold on, let me finish the question, like really hard.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
You can do
these
that.
guys, these politicians were not reading the room like they normally are good
Well,
at.
because they ain't had anybody like Tucker.
No, because
Like, this is media.
Right.
This is the fourth estate doing their thing.
Well, and Tucker's just being Tucker.
Well, he's
Tucker's
not
just being real.
Yeah.
It's not like a bunch of pre-scripted questions.
No, he had no notebook up there.
If they talked about anything ahead of time,
right.
it was freestyle.
That's right.
And he was just asking what he wanted to ask.
Tucker is like a bulldog with no leash.
Yeah.
And you're wondering whose bulldog is this? And the people are like, us, that's ours.
Yeah, it's ours.
And so what that means is that he can ask questions without having to answer to anybody else there.
Because he's free. He don't have to answer the Fox.
It's
free.
different.
So I'm going to pull an audible real quick here at the end. We got a couple minutes left.
I want to talk.
No. This audible is important.
Okay.
Tucker freed himself from Fox. And like we said earlier, you see more joy from Tucker than he ever had.
Yeah.
He's got rid of some strings that were, I think, prohibiting his ability to be a good journalist, a good fourth estate representative. One of the things that I'm excited about that the Blaze just accomplished was the cable mainstream, historic stream media was not there.
Right.
Blaze entered in and took over the whole day.
Owned the center.
Owned the center.
Yep. With great commentators, too.
And likely probably changed the way the Republican Party is going to do.
Yeah, you're right. If anybody else does anything, if the Republican Party doesn't do something like this, no one's going to trust them anymore.
No.
Yep. And this is we actually started this in Idaho in
2018.
2018, I think. Yeah, we interviewed the lieutenant governors.
Yeah,
and we interviewed the candidates. We interviewed the candidates for governor on live on stage, live streamed it, and all that stuff. Both interviews actually went viral.
Right.
Yep.
The lieutenant governor interview, we actually had to back up the lieutenant governor, one of the candidates for lieutenant governor on what he said about abortion.
Right.
And then the governor situation also went viral. And that's been one of our goals on Cross Politics is we want to reserve the right to ask any question anytime on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we want to change the way people are doing conversations because for the longest time, Republicans had been orchestrating their dialogue.
Yes.
And in
Everybody
a way
has.
where the voters, everybody has, in a way the voters
Don't
are
get
set up for
served.
failure.
No, and
That's right.
They don't know the real information.
Yeah, nobody's speaking for the voters.
No.
The elites,
They're all working together.
Yeah, this is the gatekeeper thing.
That's
that
right.
we've been talking about. They're gatekeepers,
Yep.
and they're guarding a particular protected state where we will ask the questions that we think matter.
Yeah.
And nobody's speaking for the people like they are supposed to. Tucker's finally speaking for the people.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's asking the questions that the people want to ask.
Yep.
And this forces candidates to get off their stump speech.
Yeah, that's right.
It forces them out of the can of their canned language.
Let's get real.
And it's asking them it's the real questions in a real way that forces you to. So you get bumped like Pence did. And what comes out? What comes out? And that matters.
That's not my concern.
Yeah. And even granting him all the grace in the world that he didn't mean that.
Yeah.
Sure.
It showed us exactly, but that means that you're a politician.
Yep.
And you are carefully crafting everything. And, even if you mean well and you're a decent person, that's not going to do it.
Yeah.
We need real warriors in the White House.
We need people who are not going to just do the prefab, pre-pour question and answers. We've got to get rid of that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Why don't you go ahead and read the ad for Gravity Jack, and then we'll
Are we gonna still do Vivek? We'll do Vivek.
I'm not
No,
done.
no,
I
we're
got
not-
one. I got
Oh, you're
more
not
discussion
done?
on this.
He's not done.
He's not done.
But first, Gravity Jack is a full-service digital agency specializing in the development of virtual and augmented reality experiences, mobile apps, blockchain, and Web3 projects. Maybe we should talk to them about our app. No, I'm kidding. Founded in 2009 as the first American agency to offer augmented reality, they even patented it. Gravity Jack's digital experiences have been a source of innovation for small business, Fortune 500 companies, and the U.S. military. So get your vision in motion today at gravityjack.com.
We need to get them back on the show. Okay, Gabe, what did you want to say?
We are getting them. They're actually coming down the studio in August.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so Gravity Jack.
Okay, so what else did you have to say that you didn't tell us about?
In here, you know, this is hopefully something I want to do. Idaho is actually having their first presidential caucus ever. Because there's some really goofy stuff that happened this last year, so we end up with the presidential caucus happening in March. Normally, Idaho's presidential voting happened in May, but now it's happening in March. So I would love to actually do what Blaze just did in Idaho, and whatever state could sponsor us, and bring us in and do that, run that same play, and actually bring in, you know, pastors and commentators to be part of the conversation, and to bring in presidential candidates in that state, run that play for Idaho, or for, you know, Texas. I think that's a real powerful play that Christians should be building and pushing for. Create a whole day out of it.
Well,
make it powerful.
And this goes to what Knox and I talked about a week or so ago. But we're trying to do this here. But everybody should be trying to do this where you are. You've got an iPhone, you got a table, you got a headphone set, you know, whatever. The technology is there. Everybody has an opportunity to be speaking. And I think as God blesses and God gives you the gifts and the connections and so forth, there's no reason why you can't be asking the questions. There's no reason why you can't be interviewing your politicians. There's no reason why you can't be hosting similar things. Everybody should be getting out there. God's given us microphones, given us the cameras. We have an opportunity to do the same thing.
If you put in some sweat equity, the margins are there for you. That's not there for companies like Fox and everywhere else. Like there's a lot more. The margins are larger, and you don't have to worry about, am I going to fail? It's a couple $1,000s,
right?
And invest in it. So, if you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. If you have kids, go baptize it. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.
The Word of God is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing to the division of soul and of spirit, of joints and marrow. Through the Spirit, God's Word changes lives. It cuts us to the heart and reshapes us. As you strive to read and study Scripture, having a good set of tools can help. From setting reminders for a great reading plan, to word studies and commentaries that shed light on difficult passages, to listening on the go, the Olive Tree Bible app can help you dig into the Word wherever you are. Olive Tree Bible app. Read, study, listen, anywhere.